But let's jump into our lead story of the day regarding the White House press corps actually doing their job and asking really good questions. We have one lady who's a reporter that will ask about inflation, the recession, and basically if we can even trust Joe Biden on his handling of the economy. He says one thing and something else happens. So she does a great job, and we're going to cover that. And then right after, we have Peter Doocy basically asking, hey, what's going on with COVID-19? President just had a conversation with Xi. Like, did he actually ask about COVID? Did he ask what's going on? So a lot of good stuff coming out from the White House press corps. Without further ado, let's go ahead and roll into the tape and watch it.
Okay. Thank you, Kareem. Today, the president argued that the economy is not in a recession. And it was a year ago that the president said that inflation would be temporary. So the question is, why should Americans take his word for it now when the president got it wrong on the economy a year ago?
Great question.
Here's, when we talk about recession and we talk about where we are currently today, what we look at and what we speak to is the facts, is what other experts are.
What we speak to is the facts. Just come on. Does anybody here at the Bald Brad Show, the viewership, the true American patriots, does anybody really believe that? I'm not saying from time and again, does she throw facts out there? Sure, she does. But this idea that she's going to be dealing with the facts on the recession, when we all know for 2 consecutive quarters, we've had a decline in GDP growth, and this is stuff they're going to push, that we're not in a recession. They're redefining things. There was an outcome on Wikipedia, and I don't know if any of you caught this in the news because it's been kind of buried. Wikipedia itself, over like the last few hours, has made like a ton of attempts to change and redefine what a recession is. So the left are actively right now, not just from the White House, but the Democrat Party and progressive left are trying to do all avenues they can on redefining what a recession is all of a sudden. That's how bad things have gotten with this administration. But they're going to throw the facts. That's all they deal with, folks, is all the facts. Her rambling and fumbling through her words, does it sound like she's dealing with the facts? Sounds like she's trying to make a lot of things up and pretend like they're facts, when in actuality, they're just a bunch of nonsense.
We're saying, and what the textbook definition is of recession. And if you look at the pre-recession years during in our history, you see that the thing that happens during a pre-recession is that you lose jobs, and we're not seeing that currently. It is not what is happening. The labor market, it has gained jobs. If you
notice she's using history, right? I'm all for it. I'm all for trying to use presidents to kind of see what happened beforehand and kind of see what's going on today. But the problem is when you're looking at data, you have to see if those trends are consistent. There's a massive problem with the trends and patterns that we've seen historically to present day. You're looking at a massive pandemic. The government shut the entire economy down. They shut private businesses down. So obviously, you're going to see a lot of comeback in terms of jobs, people creating new jobs, people starting new companies. All these things are happening because things are finally starting to kind of spin their wheels and get going here. You still have certain regulation, red tape, keeping everything down. So you're going to have an increase in jobs, but you can still have an increase in jobs and negative GDP growth, which would still categorize as you having some sort of rescinding of the economy of GDP. Thus, you'd be in a recession. But she's going to push this whole thing of like, well, jobs are being created. People are going back to work. Like, this is not a pre-recession kind of idea. Like, come on, man. Come on. She's struggling.
look at the first 6 months, 2.7 million jobs have been created under the president's watch. 9 million new jobs have been created. The last quarter, 1.2 million jobs. And we're seeing the resiliency of business investment. We're seeing the resiliency of consumer buying power, and that matters. Those are the broad factors that we look at.
But Kareem, what do you say to
Folks, she just said the consumer buying power. You have less power today than you did previously because you're at 9.1% inflation. You have less purchasing power, but she's going to push that, kind of just slide that in there like nobody's going to question her on the idea of that. I mean, it's amazing that literally they're citing this whole idea of like, oh, well, consumers are spending more on goods and services. Well, yeah, they're spending more on goods and services because they're spending more literally on goods and services. They might be buying more, but they're spending more for it. I mean, the manipulation of data from this administration is quite astonishing, and I'm not sure I've seen another administration do it like this in quite some time. Going from Jen Psaki to Karine Jean-Pierre, it is literally something to be seen.
Americans who
Wild.
say this is really a discussion about semantics. Whatever you want to call it, you have Americans all across the country who say it is
Look at
harder
Peter.
for them to make ends
Peter.
meet every month. They're hurting.
And this is a president who understands that. We have talked about that. We have talked about how we understand what the American people are feeling. We understand what that conversation they are having around the kitchen table about how they're going to deal with costs. But that is why we're asking Congress to act on this Inflationary Reduction Act. And let's not forget, I just talked about chips and how that is going to make difference and lower costs. When you think about the semiconductors, right? You think about how the prices of automobiles shot up during the pandemic, and now we're going to be able to make that here. That is a big deal. That is incredibly important as well.
The president run the
Folks, it is astonishing that she's saying, oh, well, we know what they're going through. While at the same time, you have all these poll numbers coming out, and they just said this like a couple weeks ago, that they don't care what the poll numbers show. So you have the American public reflecting in polls and surveys and observational studies of, hey, this is how we feel. And in some cases, this is what we would like seeing changed. And she comes out and says, oh, well, we're not worried about what the polls say. In a nutshell, what that tells people is we're just going to do what we want to do, regardless of what the American people want to do. We see this from time and time again. You see this with illegal immigration. The number one topic for Americans, supposedly, they're not willing to handle it. You have this climate crisis that Americans just quite frankly don't really care about, and they're still going to push it. And most importantly, the January 6th whole debacle, Americans don't care about it. It shows it in poll numbers. Nobody cares, and they're still going to push it. So again, it's all up to them. It's not up to us Americans what we want. It's up to the Biden administration to do what they think is best for all of us, even though we're telling them plainly what we like and don't like. They don't care, but they care. They understand. They understand and supposedly care about your kitchen table issues. They care that you're paying all this money at the pump, while at the same time cashing out checks like hotcakes during COVID. Come on.
risk of looking out of touch in this moment by
Yes.
digging in on this definition that this moment is not a recession, if in fact at some point it's determined that that's exactly what
I have to tell you, Kristen, I don't think we're digging in. We're being asked. We're being told, and every day I've come in here, I've been asked, so Karine, what, is this a recession? So we're answering the question. We're using the facts to answer the question. We're using economists who have said,
Please.
for example, Chair Powell has said, I do not think the U.S. is currently in a recession. There's just too many areas in the economy that are performing well, and that matters as well as we are trying to explain to the American people.
And just very quickly, has the president
I love that she goes, we're not digging in. You guys are asking us about it. You are literally digging in by redefining what a recession is to try and not go after a narrative that you're destroying everything from illegal immigration to our domestic policies, to our economy, to our foreign policies. Like, there is nothing they've done right. There's literally nothing. I'm sure somebody can comment and find some little tiny little minuscule thing that they've done. For the most part, as far as all the big things, not a single thing, but they're not digging in, folks. They're bringing you the facts. They're bringing us the facts. Oh my God.
spoken to Senator Sinema? Is it his expectation that she is going to support this piece of
So
legislation?
I refer you to Senator Sinema. The negotiations, we do not have a call to read out to you at this time. I would refer you to her and also Senator Schumer, who's doing the negotiations.
Not to have her as a part of these negotiations.
Again, I would.
I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Bald Brad Show. If you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all our future content.